What sort of ship are you working on? A general cargo vessel? A container ship? A tanker, perhaps? Each has its own safety requirements which you need to understand and observe at all times. But there is one part of any ship, including yours, where the safety requirements are very similar, but often ignored. It's the living accommodation. There is also a breed of person whose safety behavior changes dramatically when they're off duty. At work, they're highly professional seamen, but when they go off duty, they create danger for themselves and others. Perhaps you recognize them. This is Ronnie. When he enters the accommodation area, he changes. Basically, his brain stops working. His speciality is ignoring the obvious. So when Ronnie enters the accommodation, he simply stops bothering. Take this case which someone has abandoned. Does he remove it or report it? No. But on deck, Ronnie is a reliable and experienced seaman who wouldn't tolerate a blocked alleyway for one moment. So why tolerate it in the accommodation? Reggie is also a respected crew member, when he's working. But he too suffers an alarming change when he's off duty. When Reggie enters the accommodation, he becomes an out-and-out slob. How would he ever find his life jacket in here? And when he's relaxing in his cabin, he thinks nothing of smoking in bed. He also thinks nothing of the risk he poses to his own life and to the lives of his shipmates. But at work, Reggie would never smoke in a dangerous place. For example, where there could be flammable gases. Why then does he smoke in bed?
Because of the gases. No! No!
Meanwhile, how does Ronnie react when he sees a dangerous practice which could cost him his life? It doesn't bother him at all. He certainly wouldn't report it.
Oh!
You burned yourself, did you? You're supposed to smoke that thing, not burn yourself.
I'll burn you in a minute. Oh, dear.
No smoking, no, it's near the gas, no smoking, no, you don't smoke, no, wait, oh, you don't smoke it.
But at work, it would be a different story. Reggie is extremely careful when dealing with chemicals and cleaning materials. Whenever he works with them, he protects himself by taking the correct precautions. But he doesn't apply the same rules off duty. He even keeps a bit of paint stripper in his cabin. It's an accident waiting to happen.
Oh, what are you doing there, mate? So you're saying finished it, yeah, I see.
This requires great skill and patience.
Ha! Skill and patience, you got none of those, what are you on about?
I do, but
No,
you
yeah.
don't, so you can leave.
Skill and patience.
Oh.
Likewise, Reggie is well aware of health risks like Legionella from dirty air conditioning units. When he's asked to clean them as part of his work, he does a thorough job. But off work, he doesn't think germs exist. If he did feel ill, he probably wouldn't report it, despite the risks to himself and his shipmates. Nor does he think about his reactions slowing down when he's not well, even though this poses a risk all of its own.
Hey, what's the
In
problem?
fact, Reggie is a walking health hazard. In the washrooms and toilets, he has a surefire way of ensuring bad hygiene. He blocks the drains with cigarette butts. Yet when he and Ronnie clean the ship's scuppers, You couldn't ask for a more professional job. The laundry, meanwhile, provides another opportunity for Ronnie to ignore the evidence of his eyes. It doesn't help that he's very tired and even less alert than usual, but he should be aware that tiredness will make him even more likely to have an accident. And by hanging his clothes so close to the heater, he risks starting a fire. Is he so tired he doesn't know how hot it is? He does now. But if he was working in the engine room, you could guarantee that he'd know the position of every hot surface.
He shoots. He scores.
Hang on a sec. Chuck this in for me. Chuck it in for me.
Am I supposed to do your washing?
Just
And your ironing?
Just do it, please. Just do it.
As a dedicated slob, Reggie makes a point of never unplugging the washing machine after he's used it. Nor does he report the fact that the wiring is dangerous.
Nothing.
Ronnie, of course, wouldn't notice any of these things. Needless to say, he pays the price. It's a price he'd never pay while on duty. Like any other professional seaman, if he found dangerous or faulty equipment, he'd isolate the electrical supply, fix an out-of-order notice, and report it. But off-duty, safety first becomes safety last.
You wouldn't dare.
It never occurs to them that letting off a fire extinguisher for a laugh poses a real threat to people's lives. If you were in a real fire and the extinguisher didn't work, how would you feel about the person who was responsible? Staircases are another favorite of people who are determined to have as short a life as possible. Reggie and Ronnie never use the handrail. On deck, of course, they do. But never in the accommodation. Today, it's Ronnie's turn to hurt himself. Luckily, it's only his head. It's a bad idea to run anywhere on a ship, not just down stairways. And if people don't clear up spillages, they put their crewmates at risk.
Come on, let's get up, let's get up. Come on. You're all right.
When he's working, Reggie knows this. In fact, if he found a dangerous spot on deck where people might slip and fall, he'd do something about it. The same goes for other safety hazards. When Reggie is at work, he will put them right if he can, but he will always report them. But as soon as he's off duty, they no longer matter to him. Ronnie, of course, is incapable of seeing something dangerous when he's off duty, so he has another accident.
Thanks a lot, mate.
If it were only the Ronnies and Reggies of the world who got hurt, nobody would be very sorry. But carelessness in the accommodation areas means that other people can get hurt too. Would you ignore a blockage like this one? What would happen in a fire? Do you smoke in bed? Do you know anyone who smokes in bed? And would you report them?
have neither, so you may leave.
Do you ever bring hazardous materials into your cabin? What steps do you take to avoid disease? What about the ship's laundry? Has anything like this ever happened to you?
What have you done to it this time?
Would you report dangerous equipment, even if it wasn't work equipment? What are your views on fire extinguishers? Would you report someone who did this, even if it was a case of high spirits before going ashore? If the answer's no, then ask yourself another question. How would you feel if this was you who was trying to fight the fire? Do you believe in using the handrails on the internal stairways, or do you have a very hard head? What about using the accommodation alleyways as a sprinting track? Do you think it's worth reporting very small problems like this? It must be if it means you can prevent bigger problems like this. As for Ronnie and Reggie, they should ask themselves this simple question. If you wouldn't do it at work and you wouldn't do it at home, then why on earth do it in the accommodation area on your ship?